The power of us. A Pokemon movie. It's the 21st, and this is a Kirblog where I review it. What's that? You're all too busy playing Smash Ultimate to watch this video about a Pokemon movie that you probably didn't see when it was in theaters for 5 whole seconds? That's okay. I said I was going to do a full month of Pokecember Kirblogs, so here I am doing it. Or otherwise, I guess, I don't know, maybe Cartoon Gamer was a cool guy and he plugged this and maybe some of you are actually watching this after all. Or he didn't and I look like a total asshole and really pretentious. But either way, here's a review of the 21st Pokemon animated film. I know obviously everybody is, all the talk and all the rage is about Detective Pikachu, but I went to go see this in theaters with Mike Lucas this past weekend, actually, 1 week ago today. It was in theaters for, I think, about 4 days in the U.S. It was in Japanese theaters, I think, like maybe over the summer or something. Zero Aura, the tie-in Pokemon, was, already given out in the big reveal with him and everything, but... this was a very different kind of Pokemon movie, much like how the previous one was, the 20th anniversary Pokemon I Choose You film, but I think in a better way. And now that it's been a full year, and I haven't gotten to watch it a second time, I actually would like to watch this one, to watch I Choose You again, maybe in Japanese or something, just for the hell of it, but... I think in general, looking back, I could definitely say, having seen this one, this is a way stronger film overall. I mean, for one thing, I think that it has it was a smarter idea to simply have it be its own thing. Obviously the first one was kind of this amalgamation of things about Gen 1 and sort of Season 1 merged into half and half its own thing, and I feel like it wasn't kind of hitting the mark. But with this one being kind of its own unique story, and just Ash and Team Rocket happened to be in it, I think allowed it to be a lot stronger of a story overall, which is funny because the Japanese title, I believe, is Everyone's Story, and the Power of Us being kind of a clever throwback to the Power of One, the Lugia movie, Pokemon 2000. But, for one thing, the easy stuff out of the way, the animation, just absolutely stunning. As always. I mean, usually almost all the Pokemon movies look spectacular. This one had a little bit of more noticeable CG at times. Pretty much since I think the third or fourth one, they've had background characters like in distant shots or whatever be CG characters or whatever, and that certainly there was a lot of that, and there were definitely some Pokemon 3D models that were plopped in there as well, which was a little bit noticeable. But I mean, the design of Fuwa City, the big, sprawling locale, like lots of variety to the location of it. So it was interesting because it was a quaint location of it just being confined to one particular sort of area, but like everything about it was very, very like, vibrant and varied looking, that, it lent itself to a lot of good, different rounded out scenes and everything. We have like up in the mountains where a lot of, and they go back and forth to different places that are of key importance there, which was nice. Another thing too, very happy that the original Japanese score for the film was kept in. I know that there's some kind of like legal weird thing about the background music of the Pokemon anime when it comes to the English version, and probably other language dubs of the show as well. I don't know the full details. It's just kind of an unfortunate thing of circumstance. But in the case of this movie, I am very happy that they did in fact keep the original score in it. It is beautiful to listen to, without doubt. So that was nice, just to hear that in there. Nearly forgot something very important. I tweeted about this, but interestingly, before this movie started, first of all, they actually played a couple shorts from Pokemon Generations. They specifically played two of the Gold and Silver era ones, the one with Lance invading Team Rocket headquarters, and the one with Eugene talking about Ho-Oh and everything, and the three legendary beasts and all that. They just kind of played those before, which was kind of cool, kind of like when they used to play like Looney Tunes preceding films and stuff like that. And then shortly after, they also had a little behind-the-scenes, little mini documentary thing, an interview with Mr. Yuyama, who's the animation director for all of the Pokemon films, all the way dating back to Mewtwo Strikes Back. And he talked about kind of his experiences. He mentioned that like Lapras was his favorite Pokemon when he started working on the show as well, and eventually the movies. He was playing the games. His kids were very much into the original red and green games, and he never forgot the first time he got on Lapras's back and could surf around it. So, Lapras was always a big favorite of his. That was very sweet. Yeah, he was going through talking about kind of his journey from starting as an animator up to being a director, and reflecting on a lot of the previous movies and stuff. And that was very cool. He also had a brief other sub interview with Rob Letterman talking about working on Detective Pikachu and kind of trying to respect the legacy of Pokemon and everything. They showed a couple shots of some on set footage of the actors working and everything on Pikachu and all that, which was cool. And but then the movie started up. And so back to the film itself. Inherently, what I was very intrigued about with this movie is the fact that they were going to be balancing a group of a pretty sizable amount of main characters. There were a lot more than this, but there were 6 in particular that I think had kind of the most amount of attention. And they had, of course, their related other human characters, and of course the Pokemon associated with them. So we had Ash and Pikachu. We had Risa and the Eevee that she eventually catches. We have Margot, who's tied directly to Zero Aura. Callahan, who eventually gets this Sudowoodo. Tauren, who is a Chansey. And Harriet, who has no Pokemon. When it came to I Choose You, the not Misty and Brock characters that people were, I guess, not so keen on, the two of them, they were fine. They worked, I think, okay. It's funny because I feel like if they were just there from the beginning and they were like, just here's a couple other Pokemon trainers, then they would have been a little more accepted. And, so they to begin with, they had something going against them, and they were fine. But I think that definitely the characters that we had in this film were a lot more interesting. And again, I was impressed actually that in execution they managed to balance them all out very well, and also managing the characters that were related to each of them. Ash is kind of the glue that bound everything together with, he's just that, unbridled force of good. He's that, that's his position in this. So he's kind of dropped into the lives of these people and, shows up and kind of tries to fix everything in terms of the bigger problems happening with this town and, this legend with Lugia, and there's supposedly a curse, which is, tied to a rumor about Zero Aura. Risa, who we kind of opened things up with, it was kind of surreal because they open up with a sequence of her at a school and they're just showing people running track and field. There's no Pokemon in sight for a minute. So it's it's almost kind of off, not off-putting, but it's whoa, wait, it's catches you off guard, kind of like that weird dream sequence that Ash had in I Choose You, but a little better fitting here. And her little brother, who is in the hospital from a busted leg, and which turns out to be directly related to the fact that she hurt her leg, and her whole theme of I needed to start running again, and what they do with that, and Eevee and everything, I felt was really cute. And there was a fun little twist with her brother that I thought was hilarious. Margot was kind of tied directly to, like I was saying before, to Zero Aura. Margot, I think, worked fine enough in terms of, and also, of course, her dad being the mayor and everything. The mayor, I think, was also, he had a pretty sizable amount of screen time. Weirdly enough, I actually kind of felt that Margot, and by extension, Zero Aura, I think that they could have stood to get a little bit more screen time. I think I liked what they did with them and what they were going for with them, but I wish that we got to see a little bit more because what they had was pretty important, and they only had so much time. So in terms of the balance, I do wish that there was a little bit more leaning towards Margot and Zero Aura, just as far as maybe integrating that a bit more into the story and having some deeper themes with Margot wanting to change the dark side of the town, I guess, as it were, by clearing up the rumors and protecting Zero Aura and everything. Although the action sequences with Zero Aura were outstanding, just really, really cool stuff. Let's see, Tauren was pretty okay. With his weakness was I felt that Chansey was maybe was kind of the weakest in terms of a Pokemon that was dark, because it was very clear that each of the Pokemon that these characters have were kind of meant to be in relation to them and what their issue was, but Chansey was just kind of patting him on the back and trying to I guess say Chansey at him to get him to overcome his massive amounts of anxiety and sheepishness and shyness and everything. But it's more so just the situation that they get brought into, the kind of crazy, dangerous things that, threaten the lives of everybody within the town that kind of have to push them over the edge and to man up, I guess, as it'd say. But he overall, I liked him. He was a decent enough character. But the real highlights were actually, and I did also like, by the way, the fact that there was a pretty rangeful amount of age-ranged characters, with Ash and Margot being the young boy and girl, Risa and Torin being the young, kind of like teenage guy and girl, but the two biggest highlights definitely were Callahan and Harriet, the two older characters of the bunch. Callahan is this tall tale with a sister and a niece that he clearly cares about very much, but he's almost that stereotypical Hollywood, like, I'm very up on myself but also very down at myself at the same time. Complete real case of imposter syndrome, which is why Sudowoodo was an incredibly fitting Pokemon for him. But this, him being a bold-faced pathological liar at all points to virtually everybody until close to the end of the film, and the kind of dynamic that he has with this Sudowoodo who won't stop following him, and kind of the symbolism of, like, your lies always catch up to you, and you can't hide from that forever kind of thing. It was surprisingly, kind of a mature, I guess, deeper theme for a Pokemon movie. And same kind of thing with Harriet. Harriet was also just really entertaining. Her voice actress was really good. I would love to hear the Japanese performance as well, because it's Masako Nozawa. But Catherine Cahill, who's the English dub voice, also did a great job on her as crotchety old lady who basically doesn't want to be around Pokemon and is forced to be around them at all times because of this sweet scent aroma that got sprayed on her accidentally or whatever. So, like, she kind of ends up developing this posse of Pokemon that just keep following her throughout the film, and the group gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So she doesn't have she does have one particular Pokemon that is associated with her that is not there anymore. And I won't spoil everything, because I would like people to go check this out if they haven't seen it, and if this gets them curious at all. But I will say this: unfortunately, there was another case, kind of like with that moment where Pikachu talks for a second in I Choose You. There was another, like, moment that was meant to be a big dramatic, like, whoa kind of thing, and it unfortunately kind of got a laugh out of the audience, when it was meant to be taken seriously and meant to be kind of dark and stuff, but it didn't come across that way, at least not to, But I will say this actually too, in addition to that, we did have actually a pretty positive audience, and people were, like, into it. Like, actually, people were, like, laughing at all the gags. There was some pretty good, like, slapsticky stuff in the animation and everything, and some good timing on the jokes and all that. And people were into it, and they applauded at the end. So it was nice to know that we were in a theater of people that were appreciating what they were going to see. I mean, I imagine they would have had to inherently, because it was only in theaters for about 4 days. So it was just nice to see that people were, like, actually appreciating it. But yeah, Harriet was also really cool. She was entertaining. She had some interesting kind of twists with the plot and everything. But yeah, so it was funny that Harriet and Callahan, the two elder characters, eldest of the main group of folks, were kind of the most interesting to me anyway. But yeah, and overall, there was this really nice, solid theme of togetherness that played really well into the idea of kind of just taking Ash and Pikachu and Team Rocket, who are just kind of like, they're a small part, and they have their little couple funny moments or whatever. But, it's sticking mainly Ash and Pikachu into just, like, a new world where he just gets to experience something. And it's more so about all these other characters, but they set it up in a way to where, like, the balance of them makes sense and it engages you into it. It's not just like, it's definitely completely different from the usual format of Pokemon films, where it's like, we show up and then there's a big bad guy or a talking Pokemon or, whatever, and then some villain shows up or whatever. A lot of the same kind of deal. In fact, actually, this isn't really a spoiler because it's just a basic thing about the movie. There's not really a villain. There's some, like, poachers, like some Pokemon thieves that come in for, like, a scene and they try to mess things up, but, like, that's really it. Like, for the most part, it's actually more of, like, a man versus nature story as far as the grand scheme of things goes. Because that's the thing that kind of has to bring everybody together to overcome this crisis and all that, but also it has a lot of man versus self themes, because it's it's this big disaster that everybody has to cooperate on, and Ash again being kind of the glue that bonds everyone together, together with their Pokemon. That kind of leads into each of these man versus self stories, as it were. Kind of, they each have to kind of get over their issues in order to save the day collectively, and it worked out really nicely. This actually I think might be one of my new favorite Pokemon movies. I don't know what my list is now compared to what it was a few years ago, probably my first Pokecember, but this was a really solid one, and I would definitely go recommend. If you're a fan of Pokemon in general, and you want to see a different kind of it's something not in the run of the mill of the types of stuff that they've been doing in the Pokemon movies in the last 20 years. And in a way that was a little bit more, to me anyway, effective than I Choose You. I would definitely recommend you check this one out. And that's actually all I have to say. So I'm going to leave it at that. But thanks everybody for tuning in. And if you actually made it this far, I really do appreciate it. Once again, I'll remind you all, just in case you missed the little Smash Kirblog that I did. And again, if you're not too busy being in the middle of playing Smash, just to let you know, you might want to keep an eye out for the Smash collab coming out on Newgrounds very soon. Just keep a close eye on that. My next Kirblog for Pokecember 2018 is going to be a very, very, very special one. I'm going to try to make a big deal out of this on social media and everything when it comes closer to coming out. But I did an interview with Michael Hagney, who is the original voice director for the first season of the Pokemon anime series, and wrote and produced and directed and voiced a ton of Pokemon creatures in the 4Kids era, the first 8 years worth of episodes. A wonderful guy. He was such a humbling, really, really cool dude, and he came in and gave us an hour of his time, and so that'll be coming out next Saturday. Please check that one out, because I'm very happy with that interview, and there's a lot of cool stuff we talked about, some mysteries and rumors and things cleared up, and some stuff talked about, and a lot of fun memories and behind-the-scenes stuff about the early days, and etc. So look forward to that. Thanks very much, and then after that, hopefully will be a review of Pokemon Let's Go. And that's it. So hope you all are having a good holiday season. I'll catch you all next time.